Welcome to Speak for Yourself. Marcellus Wiley here. Dearly beloved, Emmanuel Acho is out today. But I've got co-host of The Herd, Joy Taylor, over there giggling, and Fox NFL analyst Mark Schlereth in the house. Sneaky Dicky Dog. Let's get it started right here in Los Angeles, where the 49ers had a 6-game win streak against the Rams, but it was snapped yesterday. LA was down by 10 in the fourth quarter, but they scored 13 unanswered points and sealed it with a Jimmy Garoppolo interception late in the game. Rams are moving on to play in the Super Bowl in their own stadium that they share with the Chargers. So, Joy, was this a good Rams win or bad 49ers loss?
They also shared the stadium with the Niners yesterday. It was a cool mix. It's all right, though.
Yeah.
This was a good Rams win. The Niners, no disrespect, it was a nice season for the 49ers, but it did kind of feel like they sort of scraped their way to the NFC Championship game.
Yes.
The Rams were all in, had Super Bowl expectations from the beginning of this year. I mean, really, you could tell the Niners weren't in on this entire season by the way that it started by going with Jimmy G. I mean, you made that huge trade for Trey Lance and said we're going to run it back with Jimmy Garoppolo. You wouldn't have drafted Trey Lance if you thought Jimmy Garoppolo was the guy. So I think that the Rams really showed that they are all in on a Super Bowl season. Matthew Stafford has stepped up all postseason. He was tremendous. They're really the overall better team. They're better than the Niners. I understand they were on a 6-game losing streak to them, but they are division rivals, so you're going to have that. And in the biggest moments, the Rams showed that they had the team that's going to move on. So I don't want to look at the Niners' loss as something that's really dramatic. They're equally well-coached teams. They have great pieces on both sides, but they had the better quarterback, and they were better in the biggest moments. And so I'm going to go with the Rams having the better win. I think that moving forward, obviously the Niners have a lot of things to adjust, and they're going to be moving on with a different quarterback next year. So when you look at the situation that both of these teams are in and the way that that game went, not going to bang on the Niners very much. Just the Rams stepped up in the biggest moment when they needed to.
I have to go to the other side. I got to go with this being a bad 49ers loss. As you said, you saw a team put it together. You saw a team scrape and claw. You got to check their fingernails to see how much dirt they have underneath there, because they started to become a championship contender as they went throughout this season. Now, obviously, there was a lower ceiling for the 49ers, but when you go this far, and you understand that you guys have your mojo, that you guys finally found your stride, what stops you shouldn't be what stopped them last night. You're up 10 points in the fourth quarter against the Rams. Let me remind people how the Rams play football. They're a front-running team. The Rams were 1-23 under Sean McVay when trailing by double digits anytime in the second half. And that one was an NFC Championship game a few years ago. Now they're 2-23. You look at this team right now, they found another way to have that victory, because you're not supposed to, if you're the Rams, win those type of games. This team is built high octane, go out there, score fast, get into our rhythm, play some strong defense, get after your quarterback, etc. When they find themselves down, they usually find themselves out. The 49ers had them where they wanted them, and they didn't run out of gas. They just made wrong turns, and that's a big difference in terms of not reaching your destiny. If I look at this in Kyle Shanahan, let's point this out. I don't know. The third time is a charm, and it's not very charming to see Kyle Shanahan as an offensive coordinator up 28-3. That went somewhere. That went sideways, some wrong turns. You see Kyle Shanahan once again in the fourth quarter up with Jimmy Garoppolo in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. That didn't reach his destination. That made some wrong turns. And then once again, you get outscored 13 points in the fourth quarter. Something's going on with the San Francisco 49ers in big games and big moments when they're up big. All I'm saying is this is a team that had it. It's a bad loss. Hard one to swallow when you were that close.
Yeah, I'm going to go on Joy's side, man. I'm going to say this is a great victory. Now, obviously, when you look at the Rams, they had lost 6 straight games to San Francisco. And I think one of the big issues for me when you watch this San Francisco team play is Jimmy Garoppolo. And Jimmy Garoppolo is consistently probably going to throw it to the team 3 times. It's just a matter of if you catch it or not. He had a pick six thrown, that should have been a pick six to Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
That one didn't go. The game, you saw the way it ended. But I give it to the Rams because of this. They know that about Jimmy Garoppolo. So they game plan to say, hey, man, we're going to put it into your quarterback's hands. He's going to have to win it. When you watch this team consistently over the years, they have always devised a run game plan that works, that they execute. it was said on the broadcast yesterday that the Rams actually put on pads on Thursday to get ready for the San Francisco 49ers. Deebo Samuel, 7 carries, 26 yards, only 3.7 yards a carry. Mitchell, he had 11 carries for 20 yards, 1.8 yards per carry. This was a Rams defense that's known for rushing the passer that said, we will play great run defense. We will put it in the hands of your quarterback. We'll make him throw it 30-plus times, and we're going to get one. Eventually, we're going to get one. So that, to me, is great game planning, great ability to stick to that game plan, and winning through exposing the greatest, what they think was the weakness of that team, is Jimmy Garoppolo's propensity to make mistakes. And so that, to me, is a really great victory, not offensively like we're used to, but defensively the way they approach this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they were a more physical team, and that's really what's been the issue for the Rams in these matchups with the Niners, is that the Niners just were more physical. They were the dogs in those games, and you saw that with the Rams yesterday. But also, Sal, I mean, you pointed out what's going on with Kyle Shanahan. You can also look to the quarterbacks in those matchups, and he didn't have the better quarterback. In the Super Bowl, Matt Ryan's not better
the MVP?
than Tom Brady.
No, he's not in totality, but MVP Matt Ryan. That's not like Jimmy Garoppolo.
He wasn't a scrub.
Oh, MVP?
He wasn't a scrub,
Okay,
but I think we've seen what happened since Kyle Shanahan left him.
Oh. Empty calories?
No, I'm not going to say it wasn't. No, he had a great season. I'm not saying that. But Tom Brady was the better quarterback in that in that matchup. Yesterday, Stafford, the better quarterback in that matchup. This is what we're looking at.
The same Matt Stafford who threw a pick six that was dropped as well.
Right. Yep.
This is Matt Stafford, postseason Matt Stafford, starting to get his stride.
Stafford is better than regular season Matt Stafford, which for me is very impressive, because I had my questions about Matthew Stafford going into the postseason, which I think was fair. He hadn't won a playoff game, and he was really struggling with turning the ball over going into the postseason. But in this particular game, that's why I think this was a better win for the Rams. The Niners didn't feel like they had everything that they needed, and that starts with Jimmy G, which is why they're moving on to Trey Lance next year. That's why they drafted him. So Jimmy G has limitations. Like Stink just said, he's going to turn the ball over. He's going to give you opportunities right in your hand to win the game. So I don't look at this so much as Kyle Shanahan melting down in, big leads, or this a really bad loss for the 49ers. I think the 49ers, they came in to the postseason 10-7. Like they scraped their way here. If they had gone on to the Super Bowl, would they be favorites over the Bengals? I don't know. I don't think so.
No.
So when you look at it from that perspective, that's why I think this is a better win for the Rams. They were the better team yesterday. It wasn't a complete collapse by the 49ers. The 49ers just need a little bit more.
I like the fact that you came into a game, and this is a matchup that you've struggled with. You've struggled defending that run game. You've struggled with all the motions, the short motions, the formation changes, all the different things they do from a play action standpoint. And you addressed it. You hit that thing head on. You did that as a defense. And you made enough plays with Cooper Kupp in this game, and with Odell Beckham, and Akers has been a great addition to have him come back. You made enough plays on the offensive side of the ball to win this, but you won it on defense. And you leaned on a matchup that it's not been favorable for you. I mean, for the 49ers and their run game, and I probably talked to 12 different teams this offseason, Marcellus, that all said 100% of them, we have studied the San Francisco 49ers run game. We are trying to steal, like the angles they get, the motion they get, all the things they get. So, again, I have to tip my cap to them on a defensive side. And it takes, this you're a D lineman, man. You know how unselfish you have to be to play the run, because all you really want to do is rush the passer.
Right.
All you really want to do is compile stats. Stats on sack stats. So, that to me that's an impressive aspect of what they did yesterday.
Yeah, look, they stopped the Niners' running attack, so that's part reason of the victory for them. But it's not adding up to me right now.
Okay.
You're telling me that the better team that wins was down 10 in the fourth quarter with no sacks, and you're like, oh, that's a good win for them. No, that's a bad loss for the other team, because the other team shouldn't even been in that situation, right? And then they're in that moment, they're up 10, and then in the fourth quarter they have their collapse, or whatever we want to call it, and that team loses, you're like, dude, you talking about an opportunity you let slip through your hands. The Rams shouldn't have been in that position. The Rams should have sacks on Jimmy Garoppolo. The Rams went out there and stopped the run, but that's not what they wanted to do in priority. They wanted to get after Jimmy Garoppolo, because you take away Jimmy Garoppolo, who's not something that you're counting on and highlighting, what are they going to do? And that's the situation I saw. So I'm looking at the 49ers like opportunity lost. You guys are saying, well, opportunity gained by the Rams. They were expected to do this, and they were expected to do this with a wider margin of victory than what actually occurred.
Yeah, I still look at it like, as well as I do, there are certain teams that you play over the course of your career.
No matter what.
No matter what, you could be way better than that team.
Yeah.
They just match you well. Personnel matches well, scheme matches well. This, to me, was one of those situations where you roll in as a member of the Rams, either coaching staff or playing staff, going, man, for whatever reason, we struggle with this team. When I first got to Washington, we lost 6 in a row to the Giants. 6 in a row. And it's like we could not beat the Giants. And when we finally did, we finally won in a game in New York. It was a close game. And then it was open up the floodgates, because the next time they came to Washington, we ran them out of the stadium. But it was one of those situations where that matchup just doesn't fit for us. And I think that's part of the getting over it mentally for the Rams yesterday.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they lost 6 in a row to them. McVay's record against Shanahan's 3-7.
Yeah.
So even though they were favored and at home and the overall better team going into the postseason, they had the better quarterback. Was anyone at this table certain that the Rams were going to win this game? They've lost 6 in a row to them. This is a bad matchup for the Rams. The Niners are more physical. They find a way to come back and beat them any way they want to. They played 3 times this year, blew them out the first time. We know it was close, and come back from 17-0 in the second game. This is a completely winnable game for the Niners. So I understand from your perspective why it feels like a bad loss, but that's what all the more reason why it's a good Rams win.
It is hard when you're up 10 late and you let them come back unanswered, right?
Yeah.
That is, I get that part of it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, it's not dominoes where they just keep falling. You've lost 6 straight to them, fine, but you're playing this game by itself. It's not like, those other 6 games, you walk into the locker room, you go on the field, and the score's already in their favor. That's mentally, you may be thinking about that, but physically, right in front of you is 60 minutes, go between those white lines, unique experience. But in those situations, championship games and Super Bowls, let's hear the record of teams that are up 10 points in championship games and Super Bowls, and tell me which one is good and which one is bad.
Okay.
151 wins, 8 losses, 950 win percentage. So guess what, San Francisco? You're supposed to win that game.
Sure.
So is it good to be 151? Of course. But is it horrible or worse to be one of those 8? Hell yeah. What y'all doing, San Fran? Finish the game. Coming up, we're focusing on Jimmy Garoppolo, and we'll tell you how much of the 49ers loss is on his shoulders. But first, the Bengals are headed to the Super Bowl. What? But we'll tell you if Sunday was about them or disappointment in the Chiefs. That's next on Speak for Yourself. Only 8.
The Bengals were down by 18 points in the second quarter, but came storming back. Joe Burrow finished with 2 touchdown passes, and Patrick Mahomes had 2 interceptions, including 1 in overtime. Cincinnati kicked the game-winning field goal and are headed to their first Super Bowl in 33 seasons. So, Marcellus.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you impressed by the Bengals or disappointed in the Chiefs?
Man, I'm so disappointed in the Chiefs. Up 21-3. Now, I know, kids always with the joystick. You got to be up 21 to get the joystick and take it, and you got to go somewhere else and go to your mama's house. But 18 is so damn close that I'm going to say give up the joystick right now. You're up 21-3. You scored touchdowns on your first 3 drives. I'm not going to bury the headline this time. Teams are 82-3 when up 18 points or more in the championship game or Super Bowl. You're supposed to win that game beyond. And the Chiefs found a way to let that team get back into the game, mentally first, of course. Going into the half, you don't get any points. You know how that jog is to the locker room. Oh, missed opportunity for them. Oh, you start to feel Uncle Mo joining the chorus. And then you come out in the second half, and it's a completely different ball game, a tale of 2 halves. Highly disappointed in the Chiefs and highly disappointed in some of its performances from its star players. Let's start at the top. Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, what is going on with the Patrick Mahomes I saw in the Super Bowl last year and the Patrick Mahomes I saw in the second half of this game where he abandons the fundamentals, he grabs a stick and tries to draw it up in the dirt consistently and constantly. It was a situation where all you had to do was just be yourself, not do too much, not get outside of yourself, not get outside of your skin and comfort zone. But the Chiefs, they walked around like, oh, this is going to be Buffalo 2.0. Oh, we're going to win the coin toss and just go out there and score again. Oh, this team doesn't stand a chance against our high-power offense. We're going to hit the switch again in the second half somehow, some way. And you never saw them do that. So as great as it was a win for Cincinnati, the Bengals, young Joe Burrow, props. But damn, the Chiefs gave this one to them. I'm disappointed in them.
Yeah, as am I. I'm the same as you, 21-3. And first off, let's talk about game management, right? Clock management, because we saw that in Buffalo, 13 seconds left, or in Kansas City, 13 seconds left. You let Kansas City win that game. Horrible decisions on that side of the ball, from the kickoff to the way you play defense. So, you go back to that first half. You take a timeout if you're Andy Reid, and then you challenge a first down call that you lose. So you don't have a timeout in that situation. At the end of that first half, you've got a chance to double up. You got to throw that ball into the end zone. It's either incompletion, we kick a field goal, or a touchdown. Yep. But those are the only two options. Then you throw the little swing pass, and it's like they never recovered from that boneheaded decision. And so now you get the kickoff, you go 5-6 plays, you end up having a punt, right, and give it the ball back to Cincinnati. So you're not, you don't double up in that situation. And then on top of it, Cincinnati's playing a shell defense, a too-high defense, basically saying, we'll give you all the running game you want, just like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did in the Super Bowl. And it's almost as though there's football hubris going on. We don't want to win that way. We're averaging 6 yards a carry, but that's not the way we want to win. What we want to be is dynamic. What we want to do is get you in the passing game. What we want to do is get the ball in the hands of the receivers and let them, make ridiculous plays. Dude, if somebody is going to afford you 6 yards a carry, you bludgeon that team until they bring an extra safety down, an extra defender in the box, and then you go over the top. So there's this, to me, this, like I said, football hubris. Like, that's not how we want to win. We want to win the way we want to win, and that's the only way we're going to play. Yeah. And ultimately, it's what cost you not only the Super Bowl, but it cost you the AFC Championship yesterday.
I'm very impressed with the Bengals. I don't know how you guys are impressed with the Bengals. 33 years, they're in the Super Bowl. It's amazing.
Because they're the Bengals. It's like death, taxes, and the Bengals are going to stink.
Not
anymore. And so it's really hard for us old heads to put it around that.
Cincinnati's good.
Yeah. I'm a Pittsburgh fan. I don't know any world. Literally 2 years on this earth. I'm 35, so most of my time on this earth, that's been correct. So, like I said, maybe we can get out of paying taxes now, too. I'm very impressed with the Bengals. I love Joe Burrow. He's incredible. Evan McPherson's got ice in his veins. But you really need to talk about that Cincinnati defense.
Yes.
They need to get some props. Because to me, you just mentioned it, the turning point in this game, which was really a tale of two halves, was stopping them before halftime. Really bad play calling, bad execution. That stop right here that we're showing right now, right before the half, to keep them from not only scoring a touchdown, but obviously capitalizing on their mistake and not letting them get a field goal, was huge for the defense. You don't let them go up 28-10 or 24-10 going into the half. Huge
24-3 or 28-3. Yeah, it wasn't even 10.
10. So at the end of the half. That's a huge stop. That's a big deficit to overcome coming out of the half. You go into the half with a lot of momentum. You're feeling good. You're feeling like you can climb your way back into this. They've come back before. They have a lot of confidence, and you've got Joe Burrow. And then at the end of the second half, the Chiefs ran 3 plays, first and goal at the 5, and settled for the game-tying field goal as well. So I think the Cincinnati defense was tremendous in this game. They were 4-4 on third downs in the first half, 2 of 8 on third downs in the second half. So Joe Burrow, obviously incredible. Evan McPherson, incredible. Zach Taylor deserves a lot of credit. But that Cincinnati defense, they went into Arrowhead and stopped Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce from getting out of there with a win, with a huge lead. You've got to be impressed with the Bengals.
It's hard. It's hard to be more impressed with the Bengals without knowing who they're going against and the Goliath that they're going against. Despite the roller coaster ride of the Chiefs this year and kind of mid-season, you were looking at Patrick Mahomes like, is this regression or is this him learning a different way to approach the position? And this is progression. We were kind of caught in between on Patrick Mahomes and his Chiefs team, but they answered the bell to win 8 straight in a row before they saw these same Cincinnati Bengals. And in that game, they were up 14. And then you were like, maybe they were just playing with their food. But when they see them in Arrowhead and this AFC Championship game and their 4th straight AFC Championship game, Cincinnati doesn't stand a chance. And then you're up 21-3. You're like, yep, kind of right. Cincinnati doesn't stand a chance. And that's almost like what Cincinnati invited from KC. Come on, think that you're better than us. Get a little cocky out there. Lose your way. And you saw that they went off script. And off script is fine when you're like, hey, Kels, run that. You know, Andy Reid calls something. Kels, run that. Off script is great when it's on. But what about when off script is off? And that's what we saw at the end of the first half and certainly at the end of the game. This game could have been over with the sack and the forced fumble on Patrick Mahomes, but they recover it. There were just too many times you were like, are the Kansas City Chiefs even playing their style of football right now? You brought up the rushing stats. Even though KC outrushed the Bengals, they didn't do it to the degree that they should have done it because of what the play calls were. And it's funny, it's taking me back to the days where we couldn't beat the Philadelphia Eagles with Andy Reid. And they were pass happy then. They had McNabb, they had Westbrook. Even though Westbrook was a good running back, they wanted to throw him the ball all the time out the backfield. And that was one thing that put a glass ceiling on the Philadelphia Eagles. In obvious situations, you should run the ball. They still were trying to force the pass. I just looked at this team like they weren't properly orchestrating their moves to get to where they should have been, where their talent suggested that they were. The first half, in most games for me, is a talent conversation. It's a play calling conversation. You come out, you're up 21-3. We're better than that team. Mm-hmm. And the second half is more of like, mental attributes. Momentum. Perseverance. Are they still holding on strong? And I just saw that the mojo, the mentality of the Bengals was stronger than the Chiefs, but I thought that the talent and the team, the Chiefs, were better. To me, it's just a huge disappointment. They stopped short.
Yeah, speaking of the mentality aspect, and this is where Joe Burrow comes in for me, tip of the cap to Joe Burrow, because that dude is all onions. I mean, there were so many times where they had him dead to rights. They had him sacked. They had him on the ground, and he somehow avoided it. He either threw it to somebody, dumped it off, or that guy basically avoided the sack, scrambled around, converted third downs with his feet. He was nothing short to me of amazing. And to be under the duress that guy has been on, we had a Super Bowl 26 30-year reunion the other day on Zoom. Joe Gibbs was talking. Charlie Casserly was on there, about 20 guys that played on that team. And Joe Gibbs mentioned, he goes, in 1991, that team in 19 games on the way to a world championship gave up 9 total sacks.
Damn.
9 total sacks. He goes, Joe Burrow just got sacked 9 times and found a way to win against Tennessee.
Right.
Like, they didn't get to him a bunch, but they got pressure on him a bunch, and not only could he avoid it, not only did he scramble around, not only did he convert with his feet, but he still made pinpoint accurate passes while under duress. I keep watching Joe Burrow, and the guy has been nothing short of absolutely amazing throughout this playoff run, and you know what? I frankly didn't believe they could do it, and I stand corrected.
Well, you mentioned David and Goliath. Who won that?
David.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I ain't had that book.
Stone, you know?
Yeah, I heard. I heard.
Oh,
in the real world, the rich get richer.
Back to church.
No, I need to know that was a story. That was a story. Real life.
True. That's what it goes. Yeah. That's why you say David and Goliath. David won that battle. David won that one. So, yes, I'm with you. Sometimes it's hard to move on from the brands and what you are, and for all of us to catch up with. Maybe the Bengals are really just a good team. Oh. Maybe they really are. They can figure it out a way to win. They're in the Super Bowl. Like Joe Burrow talked about it last week. He's tired of the underdog, label, which, I heard that was respectfully, you are an underdog in this situation. Yeah. This is the big bad Chiefs, which is why you guys are saying you're disappointed in them. But I think the Bengals are just really impressive. They're doing it in a different way. They're doing it with some limitations. The offensive line has not been great. 9 sacks is not a great statistic to have on your way to the Super Bowl, but he's the leader, and he's got that juice.
This would be the first time in history the O-line actually buys a quarterback watch.
We owe you.
Yeah, they might. They
We owe you. Here you go.
Get him some steak dinner.
It's crazy how adversity sometimes just increases the bark, increases the bite of that dog. And one thing about Cincinnati, I have never slighted them. They are some dogs. You can tell this year, especially, they are some dogs. And I'm a cat lover myself. I don't possess any dogs. I don't have any dogs in my life. But I know my neighbors have dogs. And it's one thing about a dog. And it's crazy. They can hear things that you can't hear. They can see things you're not seeing. You know, the ambulance and the fire department is 20 miles away and your dog is acting crazy. And you're like, what's the hell wrong with this dog? But he's letting you know, hey, something's going on around here. Disaster's coming. I'm looking at these Bengals like they were just in the game down 21-3, and then all of a sudden you just looked at them like something's going on. They were like, yo, it's going to be some hell to pay right now because of the dog that they have in them. And then the Chiefs couldn't respond with the dog that they have in them. You say David and Goliath. I know it's a good story, and I read it, but at the same time, I know reality. David gets his ass whooped more than Goliath. Bigger, faster, stronger usually wins. Rich get richer, etc. But the point is, I thought in this game, after the scare of the Buffalo Bills, who most would say was a better team than the Cincinnati Bengals, you're on full alert. This dog is ready. Yeah. And you saw him right there blink in the moment when Cincinnati said, no, we're coming. We have a greater dog inside of us.
You're not really a cat guy, are you?
Yeah. Uh-oh. About to judge me? Yeah, I'm a cat guy. Yeah, I don't have
You know the problem with cats? If they could text you back, they wouldn't.
I love that about cats.
Yeah, I like the independence too as well.
I like that.
Yeah. I don't need all that needy stuff. I gotta wake up and get up before me.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah.
Let's see. Here's
Dogs are texting you back now. They're texting you back.
Coming up, Matthew Stafford is going to the Super Bowl, and we'll tell you what the Rams quarterback proved on Sunday. That's next on Speak for Yourself. Back to the NFC. Matthew Stafford never had a playoff win before joining the Rams this year. Now he's headed to the Super Bowl. Stafford finished with over 300 passing yards and 2 touchdown passes to help the Rams beat the 49ers. Take a listen to Sean McVay on his quarterback.
We went out and got him because we thought it was a chance to be able to get a great player of his magnitude. Those things don't come around often. What he's done, he's elevated everybody around him. He's made me a better coach. He's made his teammates better. He's such a great person. I think you guys know from getting a chance to interact with him, if you don't root for this guy, something's wrong with you.
Long time coming, you know. Spent a lot of years in this league, and I've loved every minute of it. I feel blessed to be able to play in this league for as long as I have. But I sure am happy for this opportunity for not only myself, but really so many guys in that locker room that deserve this too.
Mark, what did Matthew Stafford prove Sunday?
Well, he's proved what I've said forever. He's an elite quarterback. That's what he is. And so you go into a situation in Detroit where in all his years in Detroit, he had one running back that was a 1,000-yard rusher and had about 1,003 or something. That was Reggie Bush. You look at them, they've never had a running game there. Defensively, they've struggled over time. Yeah, they had some wide receivers at the time. But to me, everything was about Matthew Stafford. If you don't win it for us, we don't have a chance. And so you develop bad habits. You throw into team meetings. You develop bad footwork. You do everything you can. Like, finally, he has a team around him, with a coaching staff around him, with a running game around him, where he doesn't have to be everything. He basically can say, hey, man, I can throw it away and rely on Aaron Donald, rely on Von Miller, rely on Leonard Floyd, Jalen Ramsey. I've got players around me that can help me win these games. It doesn't have to be a shootout every time I play. So I've always felt like he was an elite level quarterback, and I'm just happy for him because he is a great guy. He has raised the standard there in Los Angeles, but to me, it's a really cool story to see him get to be competitive and compete at this level and get a chance to play in the world's, football-wise, the world's biggest game.
Yeah, I think he proved 2 things. One, that he actually is as good as many people thought he was. And 2, that Detroit is that bad.
Both work.
Sometimes in the sports world, we get to test out our theories, and this was a unique situation.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford was plucked from Detroit. Now he's on a good team with a good coach and a good culture and good environment. He's not a stat patter. He's a legit good quarterback. And I had my doubts towards the end of the season. He was turning the ball over a lot. He had never won a playoff game until this year, and he had a lot to prove. And he did it. He stepped up and was everything that he was advertised to be. And that is a testament to not only what he really is physically and his abilities, but also mentally to be able to leave all of those losing habits behind that you develop being with a bad organization. And now you're in a good culture. We get to test out this theory. A lot of people thought that Jared Goff was being propped up by Sean McVay. That is apparently true because now he is in Detroit in a bad organization.
Right.
And it's very obvious that Sean McVay and that team was elevating Jared Goff. Not to take a shot at Jared Goff, but like, this is what we talked about and discussed on these shows all the time, and we are now getting to see this play out with Matthew Stafford. Detroit and Cleveland took some L's yesterday.
They did. Look at you, boy. Yeah, the flip side of the coin right there. Oh, man, for me, Matthew Stafford, beside what you guys have said, just to add another layer, there was a moment in that game where Matthew Stafford could have went back to Detroit mentally. There was a moment in that game after he already threw one interception and dropped pick six, could have been another interception. Moment in that game where you could see the doubt birds continue to hover. And typically in those moments, you can see a player who just is going to rely on their resume, rely on who they've been, rely on who they are. Even though Matthew Stafford had looked good this postseason, he still had muscle memory of not looking so good in Detroit, right? And you can see that he was conflicted with the goals still in front of him. Hey, we can still make it to the Super Bowl, still win the Super Bowl. And then this pass just reminded him, hey, Matthew Stafford, this adversity, it's not all behind you. Some of it is right there with you in this present moment. And those doubt birds, they didn't take a chunk of flesh. They didn't take a pound of flesh from him. He continued to improve. He continued to play hard. He continued to lead his team, especially in the fourth quarter where we saw his passer rating 126 in the fourth quarter. He was balling out. And then it takes me to like partly my upbringing, but more of the narrative of people who are in bad environments, you know, the great student at the bad school. Like, how smart is he really? You know, Akilah and the Bee, if you ever seen that movie, stuff like that, where you're like, if you just take them out of that environment, what could they become? Put them on an academic decathlon team with all the other smart kids and just see how smart they really are. And usually that experiment doesn't work out in sports. Like you see somebody who's like, oh man, if you put me over here, we got this dream team scenario. Then the dream team doesn't work and you look at the dude like, what was your impact? What was your effect? But this one is taking root. Like Matthew Stafford was the rose that grew from the concrete of Detroit. Like how the hell you get a rose out of Detroit? And he was there stuck. And then finally he gets an opportunity to get here. And look what he's done with that same opportunity. The only thing is, people, don't forget the scoreboard here. Jared Goff took him to a Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford has taken him to a Super Bowl. To be more than Jared Goff, to be the real reason they acquired him, he has to actually win that same Super Bowl.
You know, one of the other things that I like, and it just happens to coincide with Matthew Stafford, is the philosophical approach by Les Snead and also by Sean McVay. And that philosophical approach is, we will trade away unknown commodities for known commodities.
Yeah.
Let's go get players.
Yeah.
Let's go get Von Miller. Let's go get other guys off of free agency. Let's go get Matthew Stafford. Forget about, you know, draft and develop and hope, you know, where all the, like, hey, man, there's 30% bust of first rounders, but there's probably 60% of the guys that you're just like, yeah, he is what he is type of thing. You know, there's a very small percentage of guys that actually, you know, get drafted in the first round and become superstars in this league. And we've seen it, you know, with Mahomes. We've seen it with Burrow. But, you know, we've also seen Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen and, you know, and is Baker Mayfield going to be the guy or not? We've seen that as well. Yeah. So it's just interesting. That philosophy is a philosophy I grew up in Washington. And they used to say it all the time, unknown commodities for known commodities. I want football players. I want guys that I know that can play at this level. And it's just cool to see Stafford get that opportunity.
Yeah, aggressive is winning in sports. I'm with you. I'm not a huge hoarder. I'm doing a purge of my home this week. I don't need all this stuff. Right? Keep all these draft picks. We can't give away draft picks. Give them whatever they want. I told the Dolphins, give the Bengals 5 first-round draft picks for Joe Burrow. Do you think they'd make that deal right now? No, Cincinnati probably would have told them no. And But give them whatever they want. You don't know what you're getting in the draft. When you have a guy who's been through things, you've seen him excel, you've seen what he is capable of, that's worth way more to me than a draft pick. And when you do it right, when you get the right people and you have the right culture and the right coach, that's what you really need to do.
I think that's a big thing, too, because when you have that culture established, and you walk in, and you've seen this, Marcellus, with teams, You walk in and you got a bunch of professionals on there. If you have a propensity to not be a professional, you're like, oh, shoot, I got to toe the company line, right? Otherwise, they're going to boot me out of here. And we've seen, hey, you can say whatever you want about Odell Beckham Jr., but we've seen him struggle in the past in certain situations, man. He has come into this situation. I'll give him all the credit in the world because he is balling. He is playing his butt off. And a lot of that has to do with the culture that they've established in Los Angeles.
Yeah, all right. We're throwing flowers, Hallmark cards, candies, everything.
Absolutely.
He's still a recovering addict. Let's be real. Like, Detroit is still somewhere in his veins pumping and flowing, right? Let's just be real about this. And I never lived through this, but watching him yesterday, through the interception, obviously almost a second interception. That happens in every game. But he comes out, punt, interception. And in that moment, I'm like, uh-oh, Matthew Stafford, this is a championship game. I've seen championship games. I've seen the Super Bowl. You've actually lived through it and succeeded. Any hesitation, any anxiety, Matthew Stafford, recovering addict, hey, he can sit at the bar, but maybe he want to have a sip or two of Detroit. Any apprehension of Matthew Stafford reverting back to old Matthew Stafford in the biggest stage?
It's not even the stage, it's under duress. Those old habits sometimes, fall by the wayside. They're difficult. Like where you can get into sloppy mechanics because, hey, man, you've been under duress and you got to make that throw. And I think that's above the neck. And I think it's hard to overcome that when for 12 years you were said, hey, listen, man, we understand. If you don't play like lights out, crazy good, we'll lose this game. So take chances you shouldn't take. And that's where, to me, that comes down to a coaching staff. Like when you have a great coaching staff, we'll say, hey, let's take some of this pressure off you. So let me design our offense so that in first and second down, that's on me as a coaching staff. Let the scheme take care of that. Hey, third down, you got to find the best matchup and you got to convert for us. But not first, second, and third down. Let me take some of that off your plate. It's like going to a picnic and loading, having a cheap paper plate and loading it with piles of food, and you get halfway back and the thing just flops over and you lose half your food. You need that Chinette plate, right? You need that big, thick plate, or you need a coach to say, hey, man, you can get seconds. Like, you don't have to load the whole plate up. We'll give you seconds here.
Or you're going to be a vet, Mark. You got to hold it underneath. You got to hold it flat.
Oh, what about the edges? Then you go with it.
I mean, you just,
the baked beans going to take an L if you
stack it correctly, right? You got to load the paper plate up correctly. But no, to your point, they've got Cooper Kupp. They brought in Odell. They brought in Von Miller. You've got Aaron Donald. You have a great culture there. So when he comes in, he's a little shaky from those Lions days, and you instill some confidence in him that this is his team, and he's the guy, and the culture and the room there works, and that's why they're able to build the team in the aggressive way without. They use a different bank. I don't know how they pay everybody.
They on some Ozark.
They got Marty Bird in the back. They've got that figured out. But it should be commended. There's different ways that you can build a team.
Sure.
You can develop a team, you can draft and develop, and you can also be aggressive and go get guys. And they've shown that having the right culture allows you to do that.
And speaking of the right culture, when Matthew Stafford got there, who sat down with him and taught him the offense? Cooper Kupp. He was like, hey, man, let's go watch this film together. He's like, I've never had a receiver that basically drags me into the film room and says, let's study together, because he sees it like a quarterback. And you talk about building a culture. That's what they've done in Los Angeles.
And that's paying off now. Their connection's incredible.
Huge dividends. I don't know, man. It's just still, I can't turn this volume down completely on how in round one, Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay was able to hide them behind the flow of the game. Only 17 attempts, Really, that's like bringing them along slowly, holding the plate underneath, right? And then the second game, we beat down Tampa Bay. We don't really need you. You haven't thrown an interception yet. It's tremendous. Then you find yourself down 10. He looked adversity right in the face and responded. But the Super Bowl is a whole different animal. Just take notice of how Matthew Stafford responds to that adversity and if he succeeds once again. Coming up, the 49ers Super Bowl dreams. Man, they over. They sleeping. But we'll tell you just how much of the loss is on that guy, Jimmy GQ. Next on Speak for Yourself.
Jimmy Garoppolo threw 2 touchdown passes Sunday, and his 49ers were up by 10 points in the fourth quarter, but it was not enough. The Rams came back, and Jimmy G's interception late in the game sealed the win for LA. Kyle Shanahan defended his quarterback after the game.
I love Jimmy. I'm not going to sit here and make a farewell statement or anything right now. It's the last stuff on my mind, but Jimmy has battled his off. He battled today. He did some unbelievable things today, and I love coaching Jimmy.
So, Marcellus, how much is this Niners loss on Jimmy Garoppolo?
For me, not as much as I think for the masses, certainly for 49er fans. But I do understand where they're coming from. They're post-traumatic stressed, obviously, because Jimmy Garoppolo once again went out there and lived up to the stereotype. And the stereotype on Jimmy Garoppolo is, as you said, Mark, he's going to give the other team chances to take the ball away as long as you catch the interceptions I'm throwing. Jimmy Garoppolo gave them that signature moment, that mosaic, that the art they can hang up and saying, this is why we didn't like you. That last play, that last spaz, that last interception is a signature moment for all of those out there, those naysayers against Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, as a whole, the 49ers organization, I call what they've been doing with Jimmy Garoppolo shrimping. Now, shrimping is when you're just like a shrimp. You're not standing as tall as you can. You're not sitting there as confident as you should be because you're trying to do things in spite of someone, in spite of something. Jimmy Garoppolo and his capabilities have them at a point where they're like, yeah, we're going to call these plays, but remember, Jimmy's here and he won't necessarily take this all the way. Think about your mentality if you had Aaron Rodgers at the quarterback position. Think about your mentality if you had Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. And then think about what your mentality is as a play caller, Kyle Shanahan, when you got Jimmy Garoppolo. You start shrimping. You start to do things you necessarily don't desire, but you need to because you have to win in spite of Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm a huge fan of him in terms of his moxie, in terms of him just making it add up to wins. But at the same time, I do respect that there were some limitations to this team, and those limitations now have a signature moment to depart from. Jimmy Garoppolo gave them what they wanted, that last play from scrimmage. Now they realize, Jimmy G, it's on you, bruh.
Yeah, I felt for Jimmy G. It was a Jimmy G week last week. A lot of defenders, a lot of people arguing about Jimmy G. Yeah. I happen to think that Jimmy G is more talented and more of a winner than he gets credit for, but he does have a couple things that go against him. One, the decision-making is very obvious, as he showed in that last interception. Yeah. And also, he has a hard time staying healthy, and he wasn't fully healthy in this game either, although who is at this point in the season. So I don't know that you can 100% use that as an excuse, but you can overall, which is why Trey Lance is there in the first place, because you can't build a championship team if you never know if your starting quarterback is going to be available or not. That said, I do think Jimmy is capable, but he has some limitations, which we continue to see, which is why I don't think he will be there next year. That said, he gets about 90% of the blame. They did have some opportunities to get back in the game on the defensive side of the ball. There was that layup that Stafford threw across the middle in the fourth quarter that was dropped by Tart. If he intercepts that, that's probably a different game, and the Niners might be in the Super Bowl. Not to boil it down to one play or one or two plays, but it kind of does come down to one or two plays in the biggest moments. Situational football is what makes you move on in the postseason. So I think a lot of the blame has to go on Jimmy Garoppolo, because a lot of the praise would go to Jimmy Garoppolo if they moved on to the Super Bowl. That's how it goes. When you're the starting quarterback, you get all the praise, you get all the criticism, whether it's completely fair or not. And I do think it's fair to say Jimmy showed some limitations in this game. There were some throws that he could have made, and had some missed moments, and that's what it comes down to in the postseason against a good team.
Yeah, you mentioned some throws he could have made. There was a throw early just on a through route to the tight end Kittle early in the game that would have been 25, 30 yards. And he just airmails it over his head. I always say this about my own career. If I put a 7-minute highlight together in my career, there is no keeping me out of the Hall of Fame. It's the other 7,000 minutes that I played that's keeping me out of the Hall of Fame. Like, that's the case. Right. And you look at Jimmy Garoppolo, there are going to be highlight moments. There are going to be ways. They have a formula with how to win games when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo. The problem is when they fall out of that formula, he consistently either misses a throw or makes a throw that gets picked off. And you're 100% right about Tart. You got to make that. You got to make that play. At that point, it hit you right in the hands, and your hands were made of feet. And you just let that thing go right through the wickets. You have got to be able to make that catch. And we're talking about a different. We're talking about the Niners potentially representing the NFC in the Super Bowl, but they have a formula, and that formula is we are running the ball. We're gonna physically dominate you, and we're gonna create explosives in our play action game, whether that's play pass game or whether that's the run action boot keep game. And because they couldn't do that, it all fell on Jimmy Garoppolo. And listen, there's nothing wrong with being the fourth or fifth best player at your position in the league. You're still pretty damn good, right? But we just compare him to everybody else who's quote unquote better. Where's Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers was watching Jimmy Garoppolo on the couch. He's about ready to win another MVP. So, you know, I mean, I know it feels like piling on Jimmy Garoppolo. I put a lot of it at his feet because when they shut you down that way, you've got to be able to make the plays that actually elevate your team to a championship. He didn't do it in the Super Bowl, and he certainly didn't do it in the NFC Championship game when push came to shove.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that we compare him to the greats out there. In part, he puts himself in that company because of how much he wins. So when you look at the list of wins and winners, and you start to see Jimmy Garoppolo in that list, you're like, well, let's compare him then to the other guys. And then you start to see elite, outstanding talents that get their wins versus Jimmy Garoppolo, who plays the team game and gets his wins. It's interesting there. Joy put 90% on Jimmy Garoppolo. I think 49er fans will echo that. I'm much lower than that because Jimmy Garoppolo, here I come, the defense attorney in me, first career postseason game with multiple touchdown passes thrown. Jimmy Garoppolo threw his first passing touchdowns this postseason. Y'all remember he didn't have any touchdowns? Jimmy Garoppolo, 21-7. Now, second best in NFL history in the postseason in terms of his record, Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, it's so weird about Jimmy Garoppolo. He's just a guy that whatever you think of him, you're right. If you think good, you're right. You think bad, you're right. And that's a crazy place to be when there's someone behind you who is full of hope and full of ambition, and they're full of desire to see him become their starting quarterback. What we used to always say on our team, Mark, is the most popular guy on our team in any adversity is the backup quarterback. Like, as soon as anything gets tough and rough around here, that backup quarterback becomes more popular because he holds your hopes, your imagination. And I think that may be what Trey Lance is. And it's funny, there's a comp between Jimmy Garoppolo and Jared Goff in terms of, yeah, we like you. Yeah, we're in like with you, but we're not in love with you. So I think the days of Jimmy Garoppolo being the franchise quarterback may be of yesterday.
Well, also with the 90% thing in the fourth quarter when it matters, in the biggest moments, that's when it fell apart. Jimmy was 3 for 9, 33.3 completion percentage, 30 yards, an interception, and a 4.2 passer rating.
Would you say 4.2? GPA?
4.
That's somebody GPA. You got a passer rate?
Jimmy Garoppolo is the quintessential you can win with him guy, which is the kiss of death in the NFL these days because the gap between the have and have-nots is getting wider, and there's a lot of you can win with him, and that's Jimmy G, which basically means you're a little better than average. I mean, you look at the quarterbacks that were in the postseason this weekend. Burrow, you're winning because of Joe Burrow. Patrick Mahomes goes without saying. And Matthew Stafford proved this postseason that he is that guy. So Jimmy was kind of the weakest link going into this weekend anyway. And unfortunately, it kind of played out that way, that he is a you can win with him guy. To your point about the hope and the Jared Goff comparison, it is a great comparison because as we discussed earlier, Jared Goff went to Detroit. What happened? They won 3 games. Matthew Stafford is playing in the Super Bowl. 49ers fans are very, very out on Jimmy Garoppolo. I like Jimmy more than most Niners fans do. I think he is a winner. But we're going to get to see next year Jimmy Garoppolo with another team. I think the Niners will do right by him. They're not going to send him to a complete rebuild. They're going to try and send him somewhere good. And the quarterback market is pretty open right now. There's a lot of Pittsburgh, Denver.
There are plenty of places
that would gladly take him. And they're going to get to see this roster with Trey Lance, who is essentially a rookie.
GPA 4.2, that's you take my GPA and I was going times it by 2.
And add 1.0. Damn, State. Crazy. No, so the market, Pittsburgh, really?
I'll give you all the permanents you want, Jimmy.
Okay, here's the thing. You described Jimmy Garoppolo, and it just takes me back to my old single days, relationship days, when you ask somebody about somebody. So what's up with her? Oh, she cool. But that means you're a placeholder. Glorified or not, you're just a placeholder. Like, we're moving on from you. Pittsburgh is a place where they like stability, whether it's in their coach, whether it's in their quarterback. You think they're going to bring in Jimmy Garoppolo? I remind you guys, he was the highest paid player in NFL history after 7 games started. Jimmy Garoppolo does not come cheap. He's not going backwards. That was without a resume. He was the highest paid player. I don't know if he's a $40 million quarterback, but I know that you're going to have to pay Jimmy Garoppolo because he got paid before he even had a resume.
Yeah, but you're not going to pay him that. One, he's not available for an entire season. He's shown that he's had a very difficult time staying healthy. So Jimmy can't demand that on the market anyway, just because of his health concerns. But if you're Pittsburgh, and we're talking about Pittsburgh now, we've wandered into this. Joe Burrow's in your division. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are going to be back healthy. Baker Mayfield has limitations, I think we all agree, but is still pretty good when he is healthy, and that Browns roster is still there. They still have Kevin Stefanski, coach of the year a year ago. So they claim they're just going to run this with Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins. I don't believe you're getting anything done in that division.
Mark,
if you go into this season with Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins, you have the worst quarterback in the division.
Or potentially unhealthy Jimmy Garoppolo, or you can't go all the way with Jimmy Garoppolo as
But what
your
other
engine.
options do you have? Like, if you're not getting Aaron Rodgers, what are we doing?
Well, this is something I always have a conversation with my kids and my wife about. You know, doing nothing is something. Like people always got to do something. Like, we ain't got to make a move. Like, just stay still sometimes. Like, why go after Jimmy Garoppolo at a heftier price tag than those two? And then you're already saying, well, but if we get into the major moments, into the playoff moments, he's not going to be able to take us there if he's healthy enough to take us there in the first place. To me, that's like a losing proposition. What do you think?
I mean, for me, you got to make a move somewhere, especially if you know the guys you have on your roster aren't guys that you're going to be able to win with. At least we know that Jimmy Garoppolo, you can win with it. Man, listen, man, I live in Denver. Since Peyton Manning retired, I've watched Trevor Siemian, Joe Flacco. I mean, I go Case Keenum. I've been watching
Drew Lock.
Two glove Teddy.
Right, and Brandon Allen. I mean, it just is. It's one after the other. Teddy two gloves. I mean, I would gladly go wrap his knickknacks in bubble paper and bring him over to Denver for me. Anybody is better than what we've had lately.
No, Jimmy's going to have a market. It's a very
robust market, or you just think?
Well, there are a lot of teams that the Saints don't have a quarterback. The Giants claim they're running it back with Daniel Jones. Pittsburgh doesn't have a quarterback. The Bucks might not have a quarterback, even though I know they just drafted Kyle Trask. But the Panthers, Denver. I'm definitely missing a few other ones as well.
Yeah, that's a pretty good list
Texans,
off the top of your head.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams.
I bow down, right?
Right. Yes. Quarterbacks, and they could do better than what they have. And again, he is you can win with him guy, which means the best you could probably do is the NFC Championship game. But I think Denver would take the AFC Championship game right now. I think some of these rosters are in win-now situations.
If he goes to the AFC West, he's still the 4th best quarterback in that.
But there's just, if you're in the NFC West and the AFC West, that's just you're splitting hairs at this point.
You go to AFC North, you're fighting for 3rd or 4th. It's nowhere you go that is going to be even
go to
better.
the NFC. Just stay out of the NFC West.
Stay there and go where?
I don't know that.
Let's go to break because I don't know where you're going. Coming up, Patrick Mahomes will not be going to the Super Bowl for the 3rd straight season. Tell you how much this loss hurts his legacy. Next, while y'all over here doom franchises, don't speak for yourself. Well, he can't stay healthy. The Chiefs were up by 18 points in the second quarter. Yes, the Ocho. Then the Bengals took over. Patrick Mahomes had 2 interceptions, including 1 in overtime. And his Chiefs only scored 3 points after halftime. Mahomes said, quote, "When you're up 21-3 at one point in the game, can't lose it. And I put that on myself." Amen, bro. So, Joy, how much does this loss hurt Patrick Mahomes' legacy?
I don't think it hurts it that much. And Patrick Mahomes plays for another 15 years, so we're going to be like, that AFC Championship game against the Bengals. And what if the Bengals win the Super Bowl? Maybe the Bengals are just the better team. We don't know. We'll find out next week. It felt like the Bills-Chiefs, should have been maybe the AFC Championship game, but we got that earlier, and the Chiefs beat them. And now they lost to a team that clearly is better. They won the game. Yeah. Head-to-head, they beat them twice. So maybe the Bengals are actually better than the Chiefs, and we are just blinded by what we've already seen from the Chiefs. I don't think this is going to hurt his legacy. Look, Was he bad in some spots yesterday? Yes. All that running around, backwards, forward, all that. Like, what are you doing? Throw the ball away. You got to know when to dead a play. Cut your losses on this one. Don't try and do too much. But that's what you get with Patrick Mahomes because he is a bit of an artist. You're going to get the brilliant masterpieces, and then you're going to get the writer's block. That's how it goes with a player like Patrick Mahomes. And, of course, you're going to take that because the brilliance is so good. They needed to be a little bit more methodical. They needed to play the game a little bit more like that first drive that they had, which was very patient, 11 plays, 6 minutes possession, just go down the field, stay within yourself, like you said earlier, don't get too far outside of what you do well. So I don't think this is going to hurt his legacy. Is it a bad loss? Yes. I also think the Bengals are much better than we're giving them credit for. And they beat them twice, so they're the winners. I think in the grand scope of Patrick Mahomes' career, this isn't going to be this isn't going to be the 28-3 meltdown of Matt Ryan's career. Patrick Mahomes, I think he'll be back in this situation again, like probably next year.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. It's interesting. The likability of Patrick Mahomes is activated now in these conversations because people they don't grade Patrick Mahomes the same that they grade others. Let's just start here. Joy, these Rams that are in the Super Bowl, they win the Super Bowl, are they a dynasty? Not even. You see your face? Oh, no, it's crazy. Sean McVay and the Rams? Oh, wait a minute, hold on. There was dynasty talk in Kansas City, and that's part of Patrick Mahomes' legacy. And he's went to 2 Super Bowls and won 1 in 5 years with Andy Reid. Sean McVay, 2 different quarterbacks, is now going to go to 2 Super Bowls, may win 1 in 5 years. No dynasty talk with the Rams. Why in the hell we were talking about it with Patrick Mahomes?
I like how you slipped in that May.
Yeah.
May win.
Yeah. Well, May? Hey, if not, he's still with the 2. He's that damn close to being the baby goat, that damn close to being a dynasty conversation. Oh, no, and that's my point. We have changed how we look at Patrick Mahomes if we look at Patrick Mahomes correctly. This is no longer on the track of a dynasty. And that means you have to look at its leader in Patrick Mahomes, who's still the greatest young quarterback we've ever seen. But still, how great are you? Admit it, even if he's at the top. It's getting a little crowded up there. Joe Burrow's like, yo, what's up? Josh Allen like, I'm right here, homie. Got everything you got, except I got to get over that hump. Then Justin Herbert's like, I ain't even in the party yet. I ain't even in the club, but look at these skills. Boy, I'm fine out here. There are quarterbacks coming and coming. And there have been quarterbacks who've come before that look at Patrick Mahomes like, why are they giving you all this conversation and talk when in my first 5 years, we won a Super Bowl as well. And no one said it was a dynasty. My man, Jim McMahon, well, we know why he didn't say that. He didn't have the individual resume. Joe Flacco, I get it. Russell Wilson, interesting. I don't remember the dynasty conversation with Russell Wilson and those Seahawks. I remember Legion of Boom, but I don't remember the same conversation with Russell Wilson. I have a list that could bore you of some Eli Manning. Interesting. I'm talking about accomplishment because I know Patrick Mahomes, in terms of talent, he's only rivaled by Justin Herbert and Josh Allen and then the intangibles of Joe Burrow. But in terms of accomplishment, I really thought that Patrick Mahomes stood by himself. But now you're starting to look at not only players who are saying, hey, I'm right there, but a coach who's not even getting half the credit as having a dynasty isn't going to be in the same position, potentially, as Patrick Mahomes. This has to hurt your legacy because now it's getting crowded around you where before we thought you stood alone.
Yeah, here's it, and no, Cincinnati's not a better team. So I just let's get that across since you said it. But no, they amazing. Okay. Here's my biggest thing with Patrick Mahomes is likability, man. Like, I hate the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, I mean, come on, I'm a Bronco, man. I hate the Kansas City, but I actually like Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Like, he's a likable dude. There's going to come a time when this contract, this giant contract that was very cap friendly, is going to start to kick in.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you get old. And in the National Football League, dog years, you get old overnight. All of a sudden, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, some of the weapons they have, how long can they keep that together? Tyrann Mathieu, all the different guys. How long do you keep all that stuff together? We were saying the same thing. You got to think all the way back. You were just a baby, back to Dan Marino. Oh, how many times are they going to go to a world championship? How many times? Now, Dan is an all-time great. They went one, and they were done, and never went back to sniff it. So I'm telling you, Aaron Rodgers, the Green Bay Packers, the dynasty that never was, I mean, they were winning 13 games a year every single year. They won with McCarthy. They've won now since Matt LaFleur's been there. He has one championship. You can't sit at the big boy table, sorry, with one championship. You don't get invited to the big boy. You sit at the little kids' Thanksgiving table down there with one championship. So, listen, I think he's going to be great for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
But are you going to be on a great team for the next 15 years? I don't know. I think he'll probably go back, but certainly if he never does, you're going to think back to this game where he was awful. He was awful in the second half. That was the worst game. That's the worst game he ever played in that second half. That's the worst. I think that's
worse than his 2 Super Bowls where the passer ratings are hovering around 60.
That was as bad as I've seen him play in the second half of that game.
Oh, Joey, defend.
I mean, I'm getting okay. So Aaron Rodgers isn't at the big boy table because Aaron got one. Brett Favre's not at the big boy table because
they got one. They got one.
Yeah.
You don't get to how many people do you want to put at the big boy table?
I mean, the greats have to be at the big boy table, right?
Okay.
How big is the big boy table? It's little.
I don't know. Brady gets like 3 chairs at the big boy table, right?
Brady's got his own house.
Right.
Montana.
Yeah.
You know, you got the guys that have the multiple world championships.
Well,
Bradshaw.
Even with Brady, okay, so I don't like to put this, like, let's take Brady as himself out of it, obviously, because he's a different situation.
He hasn't retired yet.
The Patriots dynasty, when we're talking about dynasty, it's not like they won a Super Bowl every single year he was there.
But they won 3 and 4 years, Joey.
Every single year he was there. He's been to 2. Patrick Mahomes.
He was the starting quarterback.
He's a Super Bowl MVP.
He can't win 3
in
and 4.
22 years, he was the starting quarterback 20 of those 22 years.
Yeah,
One year he tore his ACL. The other time he was a rookie, and he went to the Super Bowl 10 times.
There were 4 straight AFC Championship games.
Yeah.
The Bills went to 4 straight Super Bowls. How did that pan out?
Yeah, that's the thing.
I feel like we could just maybe we just slow it down. So we're saying that they're never going to get back to another AFC Championship game. They're never going to get to another Super Bowl.
No, I think they probably will, but if they don't, does this tarnish your legacy?
Well, that's a different question.
Well,
that wasn't the question.
Yeah.
If they never make it back to an AFC Championship game, if they never make it back to a Super Bowl, then yeah, you'll look back on this game a little differently. But I do not believe that this team, who you just said is better than the Bengals team that's in the Super Bowl right now, never sniffs an AFC Championship and never sniffs a Super Bowl again. I don't believe
I'm not going that far.
It's hard to win Super Bowls.
Yeah.
But will Patrick Mahomes ever win another Super Bowl? If I have to put some money on it, I would say yes. But if he didn't, I wouldn't be surprised because it's hard to win Super Bowls. And as you mentioned, there is some other great talent around the NFL that might have something to say about letting the Chiefs get to the Super Bowl every single year. But the way that they are constructed, the way that they are coached, their culture, the way that they draft, the way that they bring players in, I have to believe that the Chiefs are going to get another opportunity at the AFC Championship game.
Bingo.
And I don't think that Patrick Mahomes is walking off a cliff. Also, knowing Patrick Mahomes' character and the way that he approaches his career, he's going to look at this game and, I don't know, work on the things.
Oh, like he did in the Super Bowl last year when he didn't throw a touchdown and he's going to look at it?
I think his offensive line played a slight role in that.
That's how it happens. Every year, something else.
Patrick Mahomes flying sideways through the air, smacking Tyreek Hill in the face mask, trying to make plays in that game.
It's crazy. You're from Miami, and Dan Marino obviously should be sticking out in your head in terms of, after his second year, everyone was like, how many more is he going to go to? Don't worry about this loss.
They went to the Super Bowl last year.
Miami? The Miami?
No,
but I'm saying you can start to think in imagination how many more. And then in reality, it doesn't meet that imagination. All I'm saying is you answered the question, because if they would have won, the Chiefs would have won, your belief would have been stronger in Patrick Mahomes, not only this year, but going forward. But it has to take some form of hit, because you're like, wait a minute, he came up short this year? Okay, he'll still get there, but that's the hit we're talking about right now. As you mentioned, the dynasty that never was in Seattle, the dynasty that never was in Green Bay. Right. You think about Aaron Rodgers not only won a Super Bowl, next year 15-1, and they're one and done in the playoffs. This stuff is tricky at the top. And all I'm saying is I'm not wishing ill on Patrick Mahomes. He's always going to put him in that position. But if we start doing the leaky water hose, well, it was an O-line. Oh, this time it was the second half. Well, then this was the running game. And then you start to add them up. They don't add up anymore.
Until you win another one, and this is unfair. I understand this is unfair. But until you win another one, there's always going to be the yeah, but caveat. Yeah, but you lost in the AFC Championship. Yeah, but you lost a Super Bowl. Yeah, but you... That's just the way it works.
Well, I think that the word dynasty should not be applied to the Chiefs just yet.
Oh, okay.
Because that is what's skewing all of these expectations and predictions and pressure. They aren't a dynasty. They haven't won.
They are not.
I think that you need to win more than one Super Bowl to be considered a dynasty.
Facts.
You can be a great team. You could have a great era. But until you win multiple Super Bowls with the same collective group, I don't think that you're a dynasty. So maybe the dynasty label was premature.
Okay.
But my faith in Patrick Mahomes' ability has not diminished because of that game last night. He had a bad second half. There's no doubt about it. Some of that loss, most of that loss, can be put on his shoulders because we give him so much praise. But when we're talking about how is that particular game going to affect his legacy, if I believe, which I do, that they will be back in a situation to go to the Super Bowl again while he is the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, then if they do go and win another Super Bowl, I'm not going to sit here and cry, oh, remember that time we lost to Joe Burrow? No.
Okay, but listen to these things that could just make this objective. No team has won more regular season games since Patrick Mahomes been the Chiefs, 2018, or postseason games, and only has one Super Bowl title to show for it in NFL history. What we're saying is you guys have put yourself already in the best position for any team in NFL history and have one to show for it. So let's just imagine you guys take a little off that fastball. You're not winning at the same clip, not winning at the same clip in the postseason. What are you going to have to show for it if you don't have only but one to show for it right now in this moment? That's the conversation. There are other quarterbacks in their first 5 years who played in 2 Super Bowls. Sure. I'm just like, what is taking him out of the conversation of this may be a setup for a letdown?
Let me ask you both this, okay? So let's assess blame here because we've talked about it with Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Who's more to blame for the loss yesterday? NFC Championship, Jimmy Garoppolo and San Francisco, or in the AFC Championship, Mahomes and the way he played in the second half?
I would say Patrick Mahomes because I expect more from Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. Totally there. Jimmy Garoppolo hadn't thrown a touchdown before that game yesterday, and then he went out there and threw multiple touchdowns, 2 touchdowns. Then you get into the passer ratings of the GPA, the 4.2 in the fourth quarter. But Patrick Mahomes in the second half, his passer rating was 12. Patrick Mahomes, not even, oh my God.
The unicorn.
Yeah,
from much is given, much is expected, required. So I would say it's more on Patrick Mahomes because they put more on Patrick Mahomes as well. They don't put Jimmy in the same positions they put Patrick Mahomes on. Patrick Mahomes has more leeway to tell Kelsey to go run it. He has more of a decision-making factor.
More autonomy at the line of scrimmage to run the show.
So it's more on Patrick Mahomes. Therefore, the loss has to be more on him as well. And we saw him make decisions that were outside of himself and affected that. So, yes, I would put more on Patrick Mahomes. But I still think Patrick Mahomes is great. And the question that we're asking is how is this going to affect his legacy?
No.
In the grand scheme of his career, which I think will be long and decorated, I think we won't look at this game as harshly as we are examining it today, the day after a bad loss to the Bengals.
Let me just throw one out there and just see if I get a response.
Just lob it up?
Yeah, just throw it up there, see who's going to dunk it. How many you think he ends up with? How many Super Bowl championships?
I think he wins 2.
He wins 2?
Yeah.
2 more or 2 total?
No, 2 total.
Ooh, that's a hit. Coming up, Tom Brady might be retiring. Only one more for the GOAT.
He only has 1.
We'll tell you if we're convinced he's calling it a career. And Brady got 7? He's like, man, get that dude away from me out of my table. That's next.
Brady
on
got
the
his own
Beat for
house.
yourself. Only 2 for Mahomes? Eli? Wow.
Eli's a home.
I ain't talking to y'all.
What a crazy weekend for Tom Brady. A report said he was retiring after 22 years in the league. But Brady's dad, his agent, and the Bucs all pushed back on the report that the GOAT is leaving the game. So, Marcellus, are you convinced Tom Brady is retiring?
No, not retiring. Hell no, the GOAT's not going anywhere. Let's, just make a difference and distinction between individual and team, okay? Keep that in mind as I continue to talk. When he was walking off the field, I was like, Tom Brady's still playing. Why? Because individually, he's still at the top of the sport, top of his game, leading the league in yardage this year and passing touchdowns. Stop playing. When you retire, a couple things enter your head. 1, you can't do it like you used to do it. So you start thinking your highlights are behind you. 1. 2, the circumstances, the conditions, the environment, just the process of preparing. is a little too daunting for you in those moments. You start to think about other things. The real world is easier than this. Or I got what I need out of this. Let me go elsewhere. I don't see Tom Brady checking any of those boxes saying, I need to retire, because what's best for him is still in front of him on a football field. He plays quarterback, the most protected position, and because of the rule changes, the position that is being amplified more so than ever to have success. I hear all the reports. I understand that some people are saying, well, he has to wait till he gets his money on the contract deadline. He wants to control his narrative. How about he's still so damn good he doesn't want to go anywhere, and the only reason you guys are trying to usher him away is because of his birth certificate. I don't think he's retiring. Prove me wrong, because Tom Brady's still at the top of the sport.
I hope he's not retiring. I mean, I've had a man crush on Tom Brady for the last 22 years, for crying out loud. I mean, think about this. He's got 10,000-plus yards passing in the last 2 seasons. 80-plus touchdowns, only 24 interceptions. As you mentioned, he's at the top of his game. He's protected. He's never lost a desire to play or to prepare. Like I've always said, hey, man, it's not the Sundays that end up retiring you. It's the lack of preparation or the lack of want to, from a preparation standpoint, Monday through Saturday, that beat you down. And so he has never lost that desire, that insatiable appetite to be coached, to prepare to play. So I think it comes down to this. I hope he doesn't retire. He did use a word that I've never heard him say before. And this is the one thing that makes me go, oh. He said, I'm satisfied. He said he was satisfied with his career. If it were to end, he's satisfied. And that was the only thing that gave me pause. Like, oh, nuts. I don't want to see the guy. I don't want to see him walk away, because it's too much fun to watch him defy the odds. It really is. At 45, he said he wanted to play till 45. So maybe it's just, hey, I'm satisfied. I got to go check with my wife. I got to go check with the kids. Will you guys allow me to give it one more run? And if they say yes, then he's back. I hope he's back. I really do hope he's back. It does feel like, when I heard the word satisfied, though, I was like, oh, no. It felt like it was going to...
like a little foreshadowing. Satisfied is not a word that he generally uses. That's not how he got where he is, being satisfied. You're right. He has the second best odds to win MVP. He had an incredible season. But there's a couple things going on here. Aside from the report, which I do believe is true, I think he wanted to make the announcement on his own, which he deserves to do.
Thank you.
I think he has a really great video he's working on, a tearjerker. I was on air when this report dropped this weekend on Fox Sports Radio. So I had to scratch the show and do a Tom Brady retirement show, which I've never prepared a thought or a feeling for Tom Brady retiring, because what's the point? It's a waste of time to speculate when Tom Brady's going to retire. I don't want him to retire. I made the decision to enjoy Tom Brady's career after that Super Bowl comeback against Atlanta. I was like, all right, fine, I submit. He's the greatest. I'm just going to watch and enjoy watching the greatest ever do it, play football, instead of being mad at the fact that he, ruins all my team's seasons every single year. It's fine. And I've enjoyed it. I love watching Tom Brady play. I love what he brings to the game. And I got to admit, as much pain and agony as Tom Brady has caused my teams over the years, I was emotional. I was listening to My Way on the way home, Frank Sinatra, just reminiscing on my Tom Brady memories. I was getting a little teary-eyed, like, wow, it's going to be a new world in the NFL. It's really happening. I think it also means I might be getting old, because this means that if Tom Brady's getting old, I'm definitely getting old. So there's a lot. There's a lot to process. But here's the other side of this, like the football side of it. They're going to lose Byron Leftwich. And Levante David came out and said they were having some issues in the building. It was a little more dysfunctional behind the scenes. Tom Brady talked about how they weren't prepared a lot of weeks. That's not what Tom Brady likes. He's a very structured guy. He has his way about him, and it is shown to be successful. So, you can come into a place, and he obviously showed he brought the winning formula to Tampa Bay. But then everybody gets paid, and everybody's got the ring, and he ran it back with everyone the same. Do they have that same kind of hunger? Because Tom Brady's going to come there like he has something to prove, like he's a 6th-round pick every single day. But everybody doesn't have that same mentality. So the Bucs might look a lot different. They already look different at the end of the season. Losing AB, they lost Chris Godwin. Is Gronk going to come back for another year? So there are some questions about his situation in Tampa Bay that are worth examining as well when he talks about running it back another year. But it's that part. It's the way that he sounded after the game. We could all be completely wrong, and he could run it back another year. But I would not be surprised if the report is true and he's hanging it up. I think he just wants to do it on his terms. And it was also weird timing, too. Like, why would he want this out in the middle of the postseason run. You know we're going to be talking about the Super Bowl for the next 2 weeks. You know we're going to be talking about these championship games this weekend. Now you're just going to throw in at this point in time that you're retiring. Like Ben Roethlisberger, we knew it. He did the curtain call with the Steelers at the last home game. We knew he was retiring. This is just a weird time for him to do it anyway. You would think that Tom would want his moment after the season is over, after the Super Bowl is over, to say, I'm walking away.
I'll believe it when he's fat and he's eating ice cream and nightshades.
Right.
Ice cream and nightshades. When that happens, I'll go, okay, he is going to retire. Right, yes.
That's just not how retirement looks, even though that's how retirement sounds. It's not how he looks right now, physically, by performance. And to your point, Joy, he's not the type to hijack the moment. He wants his own moment. He knows he's going to get his own moment. I don't have to go tandem and attach myself to the Super Bowl and ride that wave or even try to steal some of the thunder from the Super Bowl. And look, I have an issue with just how it gets out now. It's a silly state of affairs now, how we communicate. Like, okay, I got some information, and that's more important than the individual who the information is about. It's Tom Brady. Like, everybody in this sport, whether it's media, player, fan, show some reverence, deference to Tom Brady at least. Let him control it, because I'm going to be real. The TB12 brand, it got off to a slow start because he was suppressing his individuality while he was in New England. TB12 could have been huge for a decade or so, but it took some time for it to get rolling, in part because he wanted to be the ultimate team leader, right? So now you can see it in full force, full activation in Tampa Bay. Howard Stern interviews, everything. Like, he's in full force marketing mode. I respect that. So give the man his space, because he's old and earned that same space. And I see Tom Brady looking at the other GOATs, because there are only a few GOATs if you respect it. Like Jerry Rice, they say is a GOAT. Like Jerry Rice is a GOAT. Michael Jordan's a GOAT, people say, yeah. And the way they went out, Jerry Rice, the braids, not playing the same level, still good Jerry Rice, but not tremendous. He was lesser of Jerry Rice than Tom Brady is of himself. This might be the best Tom Brady we've ever seen. Michael Jordan with the Wizards, that wasn't Michael Jordan. So why would Tom Brady at this apex decide to leave just because he can't see it in design yet from his team? Tom Brady's been on teams before where he couldn't see it, but still got it done.
But you've both played and retired. So sometimes you retire because your body is had enough.
Yeah. That's
and
right.
then sometimes it's like you feel like your body's had enough. Remember, he had an injury he played through all last year.
Yeah,
so
true.
while he's not going to talk about his injuries and what his body feels, and he's playing at such a high level, who knows how he actually feels at home and what his body is going through. And he talked about Giselle and how she hates to see him get hit and all of that. You know, there's also another emotional family side to retiring. He has kids. He has a wife who's talked about him retiring for a while now.
Right.
You know, it's a different phase that you get to in life. And when you've accomplished as much as Tom Brady's accomplished, which what else? There's nothing else to prove. What else did he possibly accomplish? When you're looking at the situation that he's in, the team that he's in, it might look different next year. There's a lot of emotional things that go into retiring, as you both know. Like, you start to think and dream of the next part of your life. And once that starts to settle in, you start to make peace with what your career is and was.
Yeah, he's bigger to us than he's available for them, his family. And I think that's really...
We've had him for 22 years.
Yeah, and that gets tough. You can't take your son to practice, you know, and everything has to be through FaceTime, and you just don't get all those intimate moments that you desire and that you deserve. Right. So maybe he's there.
I think one of the things about him, though, is the only place he can be himself, honestly, in the locker room.
Yeah.
It's the only place that you can actually be one of the dudes, right? Damn. And he is one of the guys. Yeah. They love him in there. I mean, and he is a grinder. You know that about him. There's nobody that spends more time, that works harder, that all that kind of stuff. But he loves that aspect. You go anywhere in public, man, you got to be buttoned up, right? Oh, I mean, he just comes down. I can just see him just completely relaxed once he walks in the locker room.
Yeah, that's an entirely different segment. How the locker room is the only thing I truly miss about the game. Not the games, because sometimes they did hurt, and you lose sometimes. And certainly not practice and not the process, but that locker room, sacred place. The only place you could keep it 100. Coming up, Joe Burrow is headed to the Super Bowl in only his second season. We have a lot to say about the Bengals quarterback. Next, don't speak for yourself. There's no place like the locker room in this. The Bengals were down by 18 points, but Joe Burrow led them all the way back for the win in overtime. Burrow finished with 2 touchdown passes and is now the first overall pick to go to the Super Bowl in his first 2 seasons in the league. Look at you, Joe Burrow. Baby, go. So, Mark, what did Joe Burrow's performance tell you?
Dude, that dude is all onions, man. I mean, straight up, 18 points down. You guys are just getting, thunder punched in this game early. And there were so many times that you were under duress, that you were about ready to get sacked, that you scrambled out of duress, that you made a play, that you threw the ball, that you scrambled and made a first down with your feet. It was so impressive. And I think the biggest thing for me is watching that guy when things are breaking down around him to continue to stay level-headed, play the game from above his shoulders, from the neck up, and make accurate throws under duress or scramble, get away from, get out of harm's way and make a play and keep drives alive. And he did that consistently in that second half. And to me, the guy was just, it was as good as it gets, man. It was incredible to watch.
I think what Joe Burrow, his performance told me is that the clock has started on all these other young quarterbacks.
Hello.
Tua, Justin Herbert.
You start with Tua, though.
Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, Drew Lock. Every one of those guys in that group of young quarterbacks, Joe Burrow just took a completely dysfunctional organization, traditionally, 33 years the last time they were there.
Yeah.
Stink can't get over it.
Yeah, I feel befuddled.
Okay.
I really am.
To the Super Bowl, beat Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead in the AFC Championship game. Off of an injury last year. They are in the AFC Championship game. So you can't use the injury excuse. He's had that. You can't use the bad offensive line. He's got that. You can't use the got to have an outstanding coach. They were trying to run him out of there, Zach Taylor out of there before he got there.
Yeah.
And you can't use the bad organization. Joe Burrow came in there and overcame all of that, and now they are in an AFC Championship game. Yes, he does have some weapons around him that they smartly brought in. But these other organizations have done that too. They've drafted some wide receivers. They've brought in some running backs. They've gotten some tight ends. All the excuses are off the table for all these young guys. All this, you can win with these guys. You just need some more pieces around him. He needs a new offensive coordinator. You know what he needs? He needs a new coach. That's what he needs. Does he, or is he really not the guy? Because when I'm watching Joe Burrow yesterday, we're looking at him like he's Patrick Mahomes. He went out there and outdueled him. He's Josh Allen. He's in the category of the top of the league right now, right? He's right alongside Aaron Rodgers. He's right alongside these guys. Aaron Rodgers, who's been at home for a couple weeks now. Right? He's the MVP. Joe Burrow is doing that in these circumstances. So all these young guys, he just needs a little more development. Okay. Keep telling yourself that. Maybe you just don't have the guy. Because Joe Burrow looks like that guy.
And that's interesting. For me, he doesn't look like that guy. But he adds up to being that guy. Let me take you back to 2001, playing against Tom Brady, who didn't look like that guy. He didn't look like the GOAT in the making, but he became the GOAT. Let me tell you why. Because in our combine process, in the way we play the game, how we are all looking and measuring talent, we don't measure the intangibles properly. You got to see them based on results, but it's hard to prepare and anticipate someone's intangibles until you see them in a moment. And Tom Brady obviously is the greatest example we have of that. And I see Joe Burrow being Brady-esque. I see Joe Burrow already putting himself in the conversation with the great one and Tom Brady and other great quarterbacks. If you look at quarterbacks to start a Super Bowl within their first 2 seasons, there's 7 of them. And 6 of them are Hall of Famers. Let's just be real. Russell Wilson, Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, Kurt Warner, Dan Marino. And then there's one that sticks out, Colin Kaepernick, right? So not going to be a Hall of Famer, obviously. Then you look at Patrick Mahomes. He didn't start his first year, second year, lose the AFC Championship game. Let's just throw him in there for courtesy. Point being, those are all special players. So Acho said this, and when he first said it, I was like, boy, what are you talking about? He's like, Joe Burrow makes it to the Super Bowl. He's basically a Hall of Famer. Already like on that track if you look at these guys. But more than just a Hall of Famer, because there's levels to this.
Right.
This dude's kind of Brady-esque. With Tom Brady, Eric Mangini talks a lot about this, like how they used to sometimes in practice look at Tom Brady's like, that's our starting quarterback. Very interesting. We got a lot of development to do. And you just saw him continue to press. Joe Burrow starting from a higher talent floor than even Tom Brady. I don't know what it's going to add up to, but you don't see this level of greatness this fast to a team that won 4 games last year, understand the injury, to the Bengals, which Mark and I still are scratching our heads like, the Bengals that fast? Joe Burrow is something special, and it's more than just typical special. It may be GOAT level special. Depends on how it adds up. Coming up, has Jimmy G played his last snap for the 49ers? We'll answer that. That's next. Don't speak for yourself.
Jimmy Garoppolo's final play yesterday was an interception to seal a trip to the Super Bowl for the Rams. Now the attention turns to Jimmy G's future with the team and if they'll hand the keys over to Trey Lance. After the loss, Garoppolo said, quote, "We'll see what happens in these next couple of days, weeks, whatever." So Marcellus, has Jimmy G played his last snap for the Niners?
Absolutely. Jimmy G gave the 49ers exactly what they wanted. That breakup moment, that breakup picture, that's just mental image that you needed to move on from Jimmy G. And it was that last play, whatever you want to call that, spazzing and throwing the ball, interception, Jimmy G, goodbye. They were struggling, I think, with this decision all year long, and especially as Jimmy G continued to win. Like, if Jimmy G takes us to another Super Bowl, what can we do? Trey Lance, I know we have so much invested in him, but what can we do? And I think they were trying to make a good situation great. And even though Jimmy G is not a great quarterback, he's good enough, and he's certainly a great winner. But they were looking for great potential and actually great results. And that's Trey Lance in their minds. But they just couldn't pull the trigger until Jimmy G said, let me get that gun. I can pull it, and pulled it on himself with that interception. They have the mental image that they now need to move on from Jimmy G. Yeah, his days as a franchise quarterback, yesterday.
Niners almost had a trap kid with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh, you snapped it over. Leave that boy alone.
You're right, though. You're right, though. Jimmy gave him that moment. You were on the fence. You're like, you know what? You did that just one too many times. I wasn't sure if I should leave, and then you just thank you for that blessing. Because now I'm at peace with the ability to move on. And listen, Niners fans have been ready to move on from Jimmy G. I love this, though, because I do think that Jimmy G is still a capable quarterback. And now we're going to get to see what Trey Lance can do with this organization. We talked about it earlier. It's similar to Stafford Goff. Jimmy G is going to move on somewhere else and see if he thrives there, and you're going to get Trey Lance, who everyone's very excited about, and they gave up a lot to get with this roster.
Yeah, there's no question. I think that Jimmy G is seeing his last days. I mean, I think organizationally they really respect him. Yeah. The players love him. They love playing with him. The injury issues and the lack of consistency from a decision-making standpoint is going to have them moving on. Plus, they invested. What did they move up from 12 to 3?
3 first-round picks.
To go get Trey Lance. So, I mean, at some point, you've got to make that move regardless. It opens up athletically. It opens up your run game with all the zone read stuff that they can't run with Jimmy Garoppolo. That's part of what they want to do offensively. So, it makes sense. But I tell you what, Jimmy Garoppolo, as we talked about earlier in the show, man, there is going to be a long line of suitors because he's fine.
Yeah.
No, but you mean
both. He fine.
He fine.
I say that in the most masculine way I can say it. He fine. You better go out with Jimmy G. He checking every box. You're like, dog, I ain't going out with you no more. Crazy. The craziest thing about Jimmy G is the fact that you can't put him in a box and keep him there. If you say he's a winner, and you say, yeah, but, and then Jimmy G's like, okay, well, you say he's not good. No, look at my winning. Oh, well, you're good, but you're not great. Well, I've been great in these moments. And it's just so crazy. He's all over the place. And it has to drive Kyle Shanahan nuts, or at least it used to, because now that's somebody else's problem. I'm sure his days of being a quarterback for the Niners behind him. Coming up, the Rams and Bengals are headed to the Super Bowl. Really? We tell you our biggest takeaway from a great championship Sunday. That's next. Don't speak for yourself. More about this trap kid. Like, how'd that go?
I don't know nothing.
The Rams and Bengals handled their business Sunday to cap off a wild championship Sunday. Next up, trip to the Super Bowl. So, Joy, what's your biggest takeaway from championship Sunday?
My biggest takeaway is that big-time Burrow has all these young quarterbacks on alert. Bad O-line, doesn't matter. Big-time injury, doesn't matter. Questions about the coach, doesn't matter. Dysfunctional organization, doesn't matter. Onions is out there making it happen.
My biggest takeaway is the fact that it's crazy how one game just changes so much of your narrative. It's a bull market for Joe Burrow right now. Oh, stand pat with Pat Mahomes, and then let's sell Jimmy Garoppolo right now and sell him low. It's just crazy how one game of all the games that these guys played, it changes their legacy so much.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway, there's two things. So it's my two biggest takeaways. One, Joe Burrow is unflappable, and I bow down, you're better than me. All right? So I'm going to try to start believing in the Bengals. I apologize to all the Bengal fans.
Really?
Number two is more games are lost than won in this league. And you watch the playoffs,
yes.
Man, the bad decisions, the Andy Reid or even Sean McVay throwing out, not challenge flags, they're throwing out wish flags. Like, I just hope that that's wrong. Yeah. Like, those things lose you football games, and that's what I take away from the weekend.
Sean McVay, you mentioned, huh?
Yeah.
2 Super Bowl appearances in 5 years, just like Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
May get 1 win like Patrick Mahomes. Dynasty for Mahomes, nothing for McVay. That's it for us. Fox Bet Live.